is up, everyone? It is Mr. Dean. As always, I am joined by my co-host DonovanDud, and we are here with another episode of the Special Hour. What's up, Donovan? How are you doing today?
Hi there, it's Donovan, and I should stop saying because I've been editing both my past video, and I've been watching the podcast, and the amount of times I said was driving me crazy, So if I ever say in this episode, you could probably add like an incorrect buzzer sound, So.
Donovan, let's not make me have to do more editing than I already have to do.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. This past week, just your typical Mr. Dean activities.
Is your finger good?
Yes, my finger is definitely doing better. The fingernail is still like not fully formed back up yet, but it doesn't hurt anymore, so that's good. No other freak injuries have been tamed over the past week, which is great. And I know I mentioned last episode that I had 2 tests. I did pass both of those 2 tests. So overall, things are going pretty well on my end academically and just in general, I guess. Donovan, what have you been up to this past week?
Yeah, I got a big presentation tomorrow where we're presenting our final architecture projects. Mine was centered around, we had to build a space and basically a story around this central character. I got a rideshare driver and I wanted to spice things up, so I made it such a boring, ordinary story where the rideshare driver is actually hunting down a serial killer that killed his brother, and we made that into a zine. It looked like a crime board, and just for funsies, I don't get any extra credit for this, but I am making a film version of that as well because I used still frames of the video from that film and putting that into my zine. I'll just make the whole movie then, and hopefully I get a TV for that as well. So,
I'm going to be honest, from that entire thing you just said, I think I understood about 40% of the words.
Basically,
that sounds great.
I'm making a murder film for architecture.
So I'm going to want to watch that after you're done, actually. I'm a big murder mystery, just like a crime fan. Well, okay, let me reword that. I'm not a fan of crime and murder. That could very easily be taken out of context.
Dude, it's the video games causing the violence, of course.
You're right, obviously, yeah. No, I'm a fan of like true crime and like fictional, like Criminal Minds, like that whole genre of stuff. So anything that has to do with like noir, detective, that kind of thing, I normally enjoy. So.
Their podcasts go booming, but our podcast is clearly better because we got some juicy topics to talk about today.
We do. But before we get to those juicy topics, last episode we started this new thing called Special Selects, which actually I'm very excited about. It being a way to highlight what games we've been playing recently. And I actually have been playing something recently that I'm pretty excited about. Also, I'm planning on making a video about it over on the Mr. Dean channel. You should subscribe, by the way. But Donovan, have you ever played Inside?
Inside, I've heard of it, but I have never played it.
So for anyone that doesn't know what Inside is, and I haven't finished it yet, so I'm not going to like touch on the entire game, but it's by, I think the developer's called Playdead, and they originally made Limbo a few years before.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
And it's an incredibly simplistic 2D, I don't know, I guess it's a platformer, but at the same time, it's more of a puzzle solving game than a platformer because you're only controlling left, right, and then you can click A to interact with your environment, and then I think it's X to jump. And aside from that, that is it. That's all the controls the game gives you. Most of the game is about environmental silent storytelling where even though no character is actually talking or making direct interactions with one another, you are piecing together what is going on in the story. And I think that it is really fun. And being, that Limbo is already kind of an ominous and creepy game, Inside takes a very similar aesthetic. Pretty much at any point throughout the game, it is incredibly moody and like dreary looking. And I would touch on the plot, but being that I've not beaten the game, I don't even really know everything that happens, but I can tell it has a lot to do with things like mind control and like government, like doing experiments on people, that kind of thing. So yeah, a lot of fun. If you are looking for a good little like simplistic, creepy indie game to throw yourself into, Inside is a game you can't go wrong with. So that's my special select for the week.
Indie games keep firing off with big hits, especially this week with Hades 2. I haven't played any of those, but what I have been playing this week, Because I was really bored in Architecture Studio, I just started watching a ton of Metroid Prime gameplay. So then, I decided, let's just go back into it. Recently, I've been playing Metroid Prime 3 Corruption on the Wii. Phenomenal game, super immersive. It still holds up super well to this day. I don't want to take up too much time on this almost 20-year-old game, but if you want to prepare yourself for Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, or just want to dive into a great Metroidvania game after playing Silksong, Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, definitely the most accessible game out of the other two, other than maybe Metroid Prime Remastered. That's also great on Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, isn't Metroid Prime 3 the one that costs like a lot of money nowadays though? That I feel like
I think that's, or maybe that's probably the collection, trilogy. The entire trilogy.
That probably is the trilogy, yeah.
I remember buying that for $90.
Metroid Prime 3 looks like fun. I've never played it, but hearing that you spoke so highly of it is making me maybe want to go back and play it again. Or not again, but play it for the first time. But I'm definitely not going to have time to do that before Metroid Prime 4, so I may have to play the games out of order a little bit, but, So was there any other selects that you wanted to bring up, or are we sticking to Inside and Metroid Prime 3 for this week?
We'll just stick for those for this week.
Sounds good. So throwing. Why did I say? I was gonna say throwing into the topics this week, and that makes
throwing
no sense.
up on the topics today.
So getting into the topics today. First up, we have a brand new update to Mario Kart World. This is not the first time in this podcast that Mario Kart World has received an update. Last time it happened, I did not have the most positive reaction to it, but apparently this time it's good. That's what I'm hearing. I haven't really had time to play it, but. For anyone that doesn't know, the main gist of the update is that they further made it so normal 3-lap variants of tracks will appear online, which good. I still don't really get why it can't just be its own mode, but whatever. If we're gonna have to play Nintendo's way, I'm glad that they're making it more often, that it gets selected online. There's also random other fixes, like now in free roam, it displays where I think it's the question mark panels or the P-switches, I forgot which one, but now all of it is like displayed on the map in a very similar way to like how in something like The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, you could see, like all of the shrines on the map. It's like that kind of layout now. That's a pretty good change. There's also random things like now the item boxes will appear more, or not more frequently, like they'll respawn quicker. A bunch of random just like quality of life fixes like that. So overall, I would say for what it is, it's a good update. Like I said, I haven't had time to play it yet, but it seems like the general consensus is that people like it. So
a highlight of this update for me is that you're able to join friends in a knockout tour. Why the fuck wasn't that in the game in the first place?
Nintendo learning how to online 2025.
I was playing Mario Kart World today with some friends at school. I brought over my Switch too, and we were bored during physics and during architecture, so we just whipped it out and just played a couple versus races, some lap type courses, and some intermissions mixed in as well. I'm an intermission sympathizer. You can crucify me in the comments.
Here we go again. Okay. Donovan, let's talk about this really quick. So defend intermissions for me, please.
I think it's a great mix up for the regular Mario Kart formula. I love the chaos. I love the dogfight of trying to get ahead of everyone, to avoid the pack and try and make it to that final lap. And once you get to that final lap, it keeps you on your toes. You got only one shot. Do not miss your chance to blow with that final lap. You'd better know your course well. It's a fun time. I think it's certainly way better in Knockout Tour, but I'm not complaining that it's in the main game. I do think, however, for the online, at this point, Nintendo, why not make a separate mode for regular three lap courses? I don't understand.
I personally don't agree with what you said about intermissions, because it's like that same concept in my mind can be applied to the 3-lap tracks, but even stronger. So for example, you said like the third lap, you better know your course. It all comes down to this. It's the same thing with a normal race too. Like on the third lap, that's whenever everything ends up counting, because if you fall behind on the third lap, you don't have time to catch up anymore. I feel like my take on the intermissions is not unique, so it's not like I'm going to be bringing up some like revolutionary take or anything. It's kind of goes back to a thing where a vast majority of them, you're not, turning very often. It's very, straight with its layout. Also, the items can feel, in my opinion, a little bit too, I guess, impactful on the results of like what happens.
But I love
maybe
that.
That's like, but I
love getting destroyed or destroying my friends.
But look, I like getting destroyed and destroying my friends as long as it doesn't impede on the feeling of strategy and like, and not just feeling like I'm clicking A or I'm holding down A and throwing a green shell every few seconds. Like, it's just, to me, the normal races are way more fun. I've gotten comments on my videos where I've talked about this before with people saying like, oh, it's so annoying whenever Mario Kart fans are like bitching about Nintendo making the game they want to, like, just go play Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. That's a valid, viewpoint. If you want, you can think that way. The reason why people like me are annoyed about it is because the core gameplay of Mario Kart World is so much better than Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, so I don't want to have to go back and play Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I want to be able to, play the way me and many other people think is the, standard for a reason system of Mario Kart. So if people prefer intermissions, that's perfectly fine. That's why I'm advocating for it to just be a separate mode, so that way everyone can be happy and play the game, and have fun their own way. So
the problem is Nintendo had a great solution. Just pick random and you're guaranteed a 3-lap course. The problem is they took it away.
But
I don't. That's stupid.
But Donovan, why have that whenever we could make fans not like us?
Oh, you're right.
Because that's the better option. And when it's like people are like, oh, well, Nintendo is doing this solely for the marketing of the game. I'm sorry. I feel like pissing off your entire community is not really good for market. I mean, maybe for casuals who don't care. Yeah, sure. But, I feel like there's something to be said about, keeping the fan base of your most profitable franchise happy. You know what I mean? So,
well, I think they lost that mindset when they released Mario Kart Tour.
That's true, but that doesn't mean they can't gain that mindset. But anyway, yeah, I just thought it would be fun to have a brief little, like debate about that. If people in the comments want to keep on like getting pissed off whenever I say my opinion, go for it. I'm gonna just say this now, because I honestly find it funny every single time someone comments something like that. You're honestly just making me giggle. Okay, so if you want to make me laugh, go do that.
Anyways, I'm waiting for the MrDean top 100 intermissions video.
I'm not fucking making that video, Donovan.
You're gonna make that video. I cannot wait for that video. It's gonna be amazing.
I just recently made my top 100 Mario Kart tracks. That video is already crazy enough for me to make. There is no way in hell I'm making top 100 intermissions. Like, no. You'll see me delete my channel before that.
I'll be watching this podcast again in hindsight.
Dude, I'm not making that video. I'm not making that video.
Anyways, there's some bigger fish to fry over at Nintendo of America.
There are bigger fish to fry. There is a big fish being named Doug Bowser that currently, well, I guess that would imply that he got fired, but he's just retiring. So yeah, Doug Bowser retired, everyone. That's the big news this week, or not even this week, just today, at the time of recording. So Donovan, what's going on with Doug Bowser? Like, what? Come on, what's up?
Doug Bowser has been in the company, according to him, for 44 years. So I guess
according to him,
apparently he's been working at Nintendo for 44 years. And, that's a pretty long time. I guess it is time to retire. He's been president of Nintendo of America for 6 years, taking over from the prolific Reginator. His legacy will be debated upon for years. He appeared in one Nintendo Direct, made a joke about his name, and made some stupid comments about pricing of video games. He's been around in the backgrounds. If you check out his Twitter, he's a pretty normal dude that runs one of the biggest video game companies in the world.
Well, first of all, he doesn't. Okay, here's the thing: is he doesn't run Nintendo. Like, The president of Nintendo of America is more,
or at least like, the American branch of Nintendo.
Right. He's in charge of like marketing and strategy of the American branch. So it's not like he's making all of the decisions about what games are being made, like all that type of shit.
He secretly made ARMS or something. No, it's not like that. But he's a very, very important person. And to see him go, it just brings into question, what's next? And, well, we do know what's next. His replacement is named Devin Pritchard. She is
only the most professional podcast on the internet.
You're welcome. She is currently the Executive Vice President of Revenue, Marketing, and Consumer Experience at Nintendo of America. Reggie Fils-Aimé says she's pretty qualified. I mean, I have no reason to doubt it. I mean, Nintendo's revenue has been skyrocketing for the past 8 years, so I guess she's good at her job, I think. Yeah, and this is the first... Wait. Big news. She is the first female president of Nintendo. Nintendo has gone woke. It's over.
She is a DEI hire by Nintendo. No, I'm joking. I am very happy to see we have the first woman president of Nintendo. Very excited. That's awesome. Do I sound performative right now?
Yeah. You need some matcha and
I need a tote
glasses.
bag and a Labubu.
I'm reading my book right now.
on a real note, she seems qualified. Like you said, she's been a part of the company for upwards of 2 decades now. I'm sure she's going to do a really good job. As for Doug Bowser, aside from his questionable comments around the launch of the Nintendo Switch 2, I feel like he was just kind of like a shrug of a Nintendo president, especially following Reggie Fils-Aimé. Like, a big reason why so many people are disappointed with Doug Bowser is because he's not the meme guy like Reggie was. Yeah. He's just like...
He doesn't say anything funny except his last name.
He's just like a normal guy. Like, I don't know.
I mean, he's been around the block. He's had public facings. He's been at, the Nintendo stores. He's been at every single game award ceremony. So he's always been there, and let's not discredit his achievements. He's brought forth Super Nintendo World, brought forth the Super Mario Brothers movie, launched the Nintendo Switch 2. There are some, controversial points in his tenure as president of Nintendo, but there's always going to be some rocky points in someone's career, and, Doug Bowser is no stranger to that. Overall, I don't know. Thank you, Doug Bowser, and have a nice retirement, even though, I don't know you.
The reason why I was laughing earlier is, damn it, it's because whenever you were talking about the new hire, you were saying, like, I mean, Reggie said she's qualified, so, like, I guess she's qualified. I was like, so. This is the least analytical conversation about this ever.
I mean, I could go stalk her LinkedIn or something, but I'll just go off of what Reggie said.
I'm sure Reggie is right.
The most interesting thing that I found about these company changes is that there's actually a new CEO, which is different from the president of Nintendo of America. It is actually Satoru Shibata, who is actually a face that we've seen before, a lot of times before, in the golden age of Nintendo Directs. He's been a pretty frequent. He was formerly the CEO of Nintendo of Europe, and currently he's like a senior general manager of the Asia and Oceania business division or something. I just find it fascinating how this guy is moving on to Nintendo of America. He's been at Nintendo of Australia, Europe, and now he's coming to America. He's just
conquered the globe.
Yeah, and now he's CEO, or will be CEO, of Nintendo of America. And honestly, he is a face that we can connect with. He's been in many Nintendo presentations. He's done many interviews. He's an actual gamer. He's a friendly face that we can kind of connect to, which is kind of what we lost out with on Doug Bowser. He was there, but he was mostly seen as a corporate business dude, which is why many think his reputation is a little bit tainted compared to the other people who have shown their face, like Reggie, he's shown his face a lot, and Satoru Shibata, he's definitely shown his face, though in more recent years he hasn't seen a camera in a while.
Well, yeah, well, part of the problem people had with Doug Bowser was his, like you just said, his lack of public appearances. Was it his first public interview whenever the controversy of the Switch 2 price was going out, or was that the first public appearance in years?
He's had
I forgot.
Public appearances. I don't know why people said this is the first time he's had a public appearance in years.
I guess I got clickbaited then, I guess.
But anyways, that's the Nintendo of America shakeup.
The good thing about, like, if we have a good, like, obviously Doug Bowser, I in my opinion, he wasn't terrible. He was just kind of like mediocre. It would be nice to have like a genuinely good one, like what we had with Reggie, someone that feels like they have the mind of the consumer, you know, whether it be, you know, engaging directly with the community on so many occasions, or, you know, encouraging Nintendo to, you know, put Wii Sports as a pack-in with the Wii. I do think there's a lot of value in having a strong president of Nintendo of America, and I really hope that, you know, we'll have that again going forward, so...
Yep.
Pretty nice weather, right?
Yikes! Well, it's so dark out. What?
So, Red Dead Redemption 2, for fuck's sake. Red Dead Redemption 2 could be coming to the Switch 2. Which, of course, you know, we're seeing potentially more support from Rockstar. So, this isn't like the most shocking thing in the world, given the increased power of the Switch 2. I guess the conversation, assuming that this is true, is how good will it run? Because we talked about this a few episodes ago, where certain Switch 2 versions of games, specifically like Elden Ring, had questionable performance. So do we think that a game that is very massive like Red Dead 2 will be treated with care with its port over? Once again, assuming this is true. Or will it be, you know, not showing off the power of the Switch 2?
Let's hope it's not a GTA, the trilogy situation where it was terribly optimized. Red Dead Redemption 2 is a PS4 game. This Nintendo Switch 2 apparently has the capabilities of a base PS4, but a little bit souped up. So I wouldn't be surprised if it ran well. It's a matter of if Take-Two is going to put in the effort, Rockstar more specifically is going to put in the effort. I mean, we've seen pretty good quality ports coming to Nintendo Switch. For example, Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate apparently runs really well. And just in today at the Tokyo Game Show, there are demos of Resident Evil.
What the fuck?
Resident Evil Requiem apparently running very well on Nintendo Switch 2. So it should theoretically work very well for being at this point at a previous last gen game.
I really hope it runs well, because like Nintendo really needs good press with the third party, since that was such a big selling point of the system, and Red Dead 2 would be such a killer game to have, you know, be a relatively up to par with the other platforms on the Switch 2. So, like, come on, please. If this is true, can we please have it, you know, be comparable to the other versions of the game? Have you ever played Red Dead?
I actually have not. That's one of the games that I really want to play. Just don't have the time now because I've been playing other video games.
Well, maybe whenever we play Red Dead, we could talk about it as a special select. So hopefully that'll be sometime soon. There's a lot of games I still need to get to as well. So, well, we are flying through this episode, which is good, because last episode we were not flying through it. So it's good to have the opposite happen. So this topic could run for a little bit of time. So, this is something that you were kind of hinting at in the last episode. We didn't really discuss it, but we wanted to give it a little bit more of a spotlight in this episode. And that is a conversation about like the role cutscenes play in video games as a medium. So last week you were specifically talking about cutscenes in context to Expedition 33. Not the only game where cutscenes is relevant, but it's just one. example. So there's various different aspects of where we could take this conversation. We could talk about like what is a quote unquote good cutscene in a video game versus what is one that doesn't add anything to the experience. Maybe specifically to Expedition 33, how they did it. Or we could talk about, with video games as a medium versus something like movies, how important is it to mitigate the amount of cutscenes that you have to not make it feel like you're playing a movie versus watching a movie, so on and so forth. This is a very nuanced topic, so this could really go in any number of directions.
Mm-hmm. I guess my main question, or the main thesis of my discussion on my One Last Game segment, was, do cutscenes elevate a video game, or do they act as a sort of crutch to the game, acting as just a little backbone to mitigate some lacking design decisions, maybe? For example, in Expedition 33, I'm kind of critiquing the game a little bit, because Expedition 33, I can make a very clear distinction between Expedition 33 the game and Expedition 33 the movie. Even the game, when you're entering a moment that's gonna be a cutscene, the game sort of lags a little bit, and then it even makes the aspect ratio shrink a little bit. So that's kind of signifying to you, all right, well, time to put down the controller and get the popcorn out and listen to the cutscenes. And sometimes cutscenes are done very, very well, and they sort of merge the gameplay experience and the storytelling aspect of a game super nicely. It's super seamless. And then there's other games that kind of have a very choppy roadmap when it comes to gameplay, and then cutscene, then gameplay and cutscene. And it kind of makes a kind of separate experience, a separate feeling to the game. At that point, you're asking yourself, do I like this video game because of the act of actually playing the video game, or the moment-to-moment parts of the cutscenes, the different scenes that you watch? One of my favorite video games of all time is Xenoblade Chronicles 3. There is a moment in the middle of the game. It is one of the greatest pieces of fiction I've ever seen. One of the best things I've seen in any medium. It's so beautiful. Without any spoilers, it's made many, including myself, have tears fall out of our eyes. It is one of the best moments in maybe any JRPG, or maybe any video game in general. It utilizes, the cinematic angles and beautiful music. It's all merged greatly. But then I realize, in those beautiful moments, I wasn't playing the fucking video game for 30 minutes. It was 30 minutes of pure bliss, one of my favorite moments ever in a video game. But I realized those parts aren't really attributed to the medium of the video game. It's basically a movie stapled on to a game. There were some slight moments where you move around the main character, but that's barely gameplay. So one of my favorite moments of all time, I wasn't playing the game. Is that a detriment to the game, or does that elevate the game experience?
Yeah, that's a good point. And I've kind of thought about that before, not exactly in that same wording as what you just said, but I think that you put that pretty much exactly how I feel, because for me historically it's been games like Spider-Man on PS4. There were a lot of cutscenes that were beautifully animated. That whole game is beautiful, but the cutscenes incredibly well made. But there is a point where you're quote unquote playing a game and you're like, am I just watching a movie that's separated by blocks of gameplay? Or is it gameplay with these cutscenes adding almost seasoning to the story?
Do these cutscenes push forward the gaming medium, or is it just one medium trying to inject another form of medium inside of it? And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just food for thought.
And I think it was inevitable, though, as technology progressed, that cutscenes would make their way into video games as a way to enhance the storytelling. Because, at the end of the day, if it's a game that's fully built out with a 3D, full on environment with, action, all that kind of stuff, and you're trying to tell a strong narrative, it does make sense to lean towards cutscenes, as that's a way to directly inject whatever the narrative is and to not let gameplay impede on what you're trying to tell. And many times developers will throw things like quick time events to, try to turn it into more of a game, which I'm not personally opposed to quick time events. I think that at least it keeps you awake during the cutscene. But if it's a good cutscene, it doesn't need to make you stay awake. It's gonna, keep you enthralled by whatever the story is that's being told.
Yeah, I think QuickTime events are definitely the bare minimum when it comes to action in a cutscene. But sometimes I think if you want to do more than a QuickTime event, just to maybe make the gameplay, if you want to make it that cinematic or immersive, just embed it into the gameplay itself, make it seamless. Don't make it seem like where, I could see the block of gameplay. I could see the block of the cutscene. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying I feel like there's ways to merge the two different mediums of storytelling into a more better version for video games. Another example I can bring up are, again, the Final Fantasy remakes. For Final Fantasy VII Remake, the first one, before I didn't play the game, I watched every single cutscene of that game. I loved it so much, I watched it twice. So that's like an 11-hour YouTube video. I watched it like a movie. Do I love the game for the movie aspect or the game part? I do really love the combat of the Final Fantasy VII remakes. They're really great action RPGs. It's super fun and engaging. But I have to say, my favorite parts of the Final Fantasy VII remakes are definitely those story cutscenes. And there is one point where I think this is the biggest crime of a cutscene, is when you're delegating actions that definitely could have been in gameplay, but you're just delegating that to a cutscene. At the end of Final Fantasy VII Remake, that whole scene was beautifully choreographed, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, this is great and all. Can I play the game? This would have been better and more impactful if I, played the game, playing the thing that makes the medium. But I don't know, whatever. It looks awesome and cool. And then there's other moments in games where this is something that really annoys me, when I visibly defeat like a boss and then it just cuts to a cutscene where they're continuing to fight the boss, and then they win, or vice versa. They lose to the boss. Like, what do you mean? I just beat your ass. Or I kill a boss, and then the boss in a cutscene just runs away. That doesn't feel fulfilling. That's just like, all right, time to move on to the next part of the story, I guess. It doesn't make your actions in the game feel canon sometimes.
I definitely do agree that in order to be a quote-unquote good cutscene, it needs to be integrated into the gameplay experience. So for like what you just said, where you're fighting a boss and then you kill it, and then it cuts to a cutscene where the character is still fighting the boss, that's an example of how to not make it dynamic. But it's one of those things where it's also just very subjective. Some people are probably perfectly fine with cutscenes in their games. I mean, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I guess, like, for me, there's just always been that fine line between, like, if there's too many cutscenes, then it's like, why not just make this, like a movie or like a TV show or something like that. I remember that's kind of how I felt with Detroit Become Human whenever I played that, whenever it came out, 2018. Detroit, by the way, if you've never played Detroit Become Human, it's honestly one of those games where, like, you might as well just watch a YouTuber, like, do a let's play of it, because it's like, that game is mostly just cutscenes, and it's an incredible narrative. Like, I absolutely think everyone should experience it in some way, whether that's playing it for yourself or watching it. The main reason why I think people should play it would be for the actual, like, you choose your own adventure. You can interact with the story in that way, which I will say, since I brought up the question of, like, where is that line between movies and, games, for example, I think Detroit Become Human and, like, Heavy Rain, like that Quantum Dream, I don't know why I was forgetting. Wait, that's the developer, right? I'm not tripping.
I think so.
I think. Yeah. That's one great way to bridge that gap, to make it so it is a heavily narrative, experience with cutscenes, all that kind of stuff, but you are choosing the results of what happens, and that is why it needs to be a game versus a movie. That's a perfect example of how to do that.
It gives the players agency, and that's very unique. That's unique to the medium enough to warrant, those giant long cutscenes, because you get to choose where it kind of leads. But in some cases, well, I know you were saying earlier, why don't some of these games just become movies or shows? And that is an exact question many people ask, even the creators themselves. The Last of Us. I really love The Last of Us, the game. I think it has some powerful storytelling and integrates cutscenes and video games pretty well. I remember I felt kind of the same way, spoilers for The Last of Us, but I kind of felt the same way Joel did when he was saving Ellie. The game didn't really choose for me to kill the doctor. I shot that doctor in the head point blank and saved Ellie. That's kind of powerful. It makes you the player, feel exactly what Joel feels. But then, I had a comment. I said, I had a commenter on my video saying, that's great that you felt the same way as Joel and you chose to kill the surgeon, but you didn't get to choose whether Joel lied to Ellie or not. Those are some pretty linear moments in the cutscenes that don't sort of match what I'm saying. And, he makes a good point. And going back to the point of making a show, yes, they did make The Last of Us show on HBO. My parents experienced The Last of Us that way. They didn't even know it was a video game until I told them. And they experienced The Last of Us perfectly fine with the show. Some people think that the show might even be a better way of experiencing the story of The Last of Us rather than playing like a 20-hour game, going through all these different segments. That's what some people think. I personally think playing the game is a much more immersive experience. But the story of The Last of Us can kind of take out all of those gameplay aspects and kind of do a one-for-one recreation in the show, and it kind of can make the video game a little bit unnecessary in some eyes.
Yeah, that is an interesting point, is it's like, with something like The Last of Us specifically, is the show or the game better for someone that's never experienced the IP? I think the show in that case is definitely more palatable for a wide range of people. For example, my sister watched the show. She's not a gamer at all, and she really enjoyed it. So I think it kind of varies person to person. The Last of Us is kind of an exception because, as we know, many times whenever a game is adapted into a movie or show, it is not up to the quality of the original game. The Last of Us is just one of those cases where they are comparable to one another. I could point to Halo or Resident Evil, just to name a few. But yeah, I mean, this is just such an interesting conversation because it also just brings into question, like, why do we play games, versus reading a book, versus watching a movie, versus listening to music, all different forms of media. I think that part of it comes down to that level of interactivity where whenever you're playing a game, you are whoever the protagonist in the game is. If I'm playing Mario, it's not like in a movie where I'm watching a plumber running around saving Princess Peach. I am the plumber. And I think that video games that embody that core identity well, like, something like Detroit Become Human, for example, are the ones that bridge that gap successfully, in my mind. And other games where it feels like you're just watching a movie versus actually playing the game, that's whenever, I guess, it goes past the line and feels like it's impeding on, the philosophy of what a game is meant to be at the end of the day.
I think a beautiful example, though maybe a little bit controversial in my mind, I have some conflicting feelings, but I feel like the Wild Era Zelda games merge gameplay and cutscenes very well. The cutscenes themselves, there are some, cutscenes that happen during the actual action, during the chronological events of the story, but then there's the memories. Those feel like they do warrant a cutscene where you sit down for like a minute or two because Link...
And they're not required.
Yeah, and they're not required, but Link is re-experiencing those memories. He's kind of like you, remembering or rewatching these past events in his life. But what's powerful about games like the Wild Era Zelda games, or probably most of the Zelda games, is its environmental storytelling. The gameplay itself is telling the story. The gameplay is the cinematic. You're walking around Hyrule, this desolate wasteland that's been torn up by war for 100 years. That already tells much of the story without having a cutscene. You can, or games like in Metroid Prime, where you don't need a whole cutscene explaining the entire lore of the world that you're on. That's up to the player to find for themselves, to put together little pieces of environmental storytelling, or what's definitely most prominent, using the scan visor, and it's so immersive. It's just like exactly what Samus would do. Scan the environment and then read up on logs that the computer, tells her through her visor. Those are some of the most immersive parts of storytelling in video games for me. I feel like those bridge the gap between storytelling and game far better than some other things, some other moments in cutscenes where they just delegate, action to the cutscenes, or they have a whole exposition dump, which sometimes, yes, that is very necessary. Sometimes in a story, you just gotta have that exposition dump. But other times, I feel you can more cleverly convey information through the act of playing the game yourself.
Yes. I guess this would be a good time to kind of segue a little bit into questions. Which, by the way, I'm sorry to everyone that we have not been answering questions the past 2 weeks. We'll get right back into that now. So, Donovan, are you ready? Are you ready for some questions? It's been so long since we've done this.
What's a question?
I am pulling up the document. That's why I was stalling by asking you right there. Wait, I forgot which folder I have this in.
I have it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, from Sidolin. What game series would you want a new installment of, and why is it ARMS? You hit the what's the
you
phrase?
Answered it.
You answered it.
You answered the question.
All right, next
you
question.
Answered the question. All right, so next no. Okay, so I'm jokes aside, I'm not saying ARMS would be my answer, but ARMS isn't a bad answer, because like I low key would want a new ARMS game, because here's the thing. ARMS, like, jokes aside, it's a game that has a lot of potential. I have my issues with it, but I think if they made a new game and, kind of fix the issues of lack of things to do with the content, with the original game, there was Grand Prix online and in a few like side modes, for example. I think if they gave you more incentive to keep coming back to the game and give you more modes to play around with, maybe throw in some new characters, although the character selection wasn't the issue with the original game. Just like other random things to pad out the experience. I think a new ARMS could be really fun. So I'm not opposed to that, being the new installment of a series. Donovan, was there any other series that you would want a new installment of?
Sakurai's a little bit busy with Kirby Air Riders, but him coming back to Kid Icarus wouldn't be such a bad idea. Kid Icarus Uprising was really good on the Nintendo 3DS. Only hindrance was that it was on a Nintendo 3DS without a second, circle pad, even though that did kind of release, but it didn't really help its case. Having a full-blown like a remaster, or even better, a sequel to Kid Icarus Uprising, the world-building Sakurai did with just only 2 simple games, an NES game and a Game Boy game. What he did with Kid Icarus was pretty amazing, and him diving back into that world, that could be promising and exciting.
Dude, like, I still need to play Kid Icarus. Wait, I just had the worst brain fart. Dude, Kid Icarus Uprising. Oh my! I literally forgot what game we were talking about mid.
No, I think I had a brain fart with Kid Icarus in one of the episodes. It was really bad.
I feel like this is like a tradition. Every episode, I have to have some brain fart. Okay, yes, I still need to play Kid Icarus Uprising. So every time I hear someone bring it up, it reminds me of that. Because I keep hearing people say it's like really, really good. So yeah, I kind of don't own it, so I may need to go buy it. But yeah, I think that's a good answer though. I feel like Kid Icarus is one of those series that even though people talk about, Uprising, for example, being a really good game, I always forget that it exists. So I think that a new game on the Switch or the Switch 2 would be magnificent. So yes, new ARMS and new Kid Icarus, Nintendo, if you're listening. So next question is from Try, who asks, which Nintendo character would make the best wingman? This is interesting. Donovan, do you have an answer to this?
Doc Lewis? He's always the hype man for Little Man.
Yeah, he would.
Little Mac.
Your arms are so big. Yeah, it'd be like... Yeah,
he's amazing and bad. What the? What?
What? Okay. I think my answer would. I was about to say this character, and I realized this would probably be a terrible hype man. But I feel like if he said the right things, he would be a good hype man. That would be Rivali from Breath of the Wild.
Ravioli.
Shut up. No, but I'm saying that because, like, in Breath of the Wild, he's kind of a dick. But, like, I feel like if I'm talking to someone and Rivali has my back, then that's going to be like, yo, like, this guy's the shit. If even Rivali likes him.
See, I was about to say, like, Falco, but I think Rivali and Falco would hype themselves up and push you aside.
No, but that's what I'm saying. That's why I specifically said if they said the right things. If Rivali was actually trying to be a wingman, being like, yo, Mr. Dean, thank you so much for saving my cat from that fire the other week. Like, it really means the world to me. And also, that Lambo you gave me, it's been driving amazingly. If Rivali hit me with some of that, I think he would be a good wingman.
Sure.
Okay. Good talk, Donovan. So... Our final question is by the way, wait, I have a funny story actually from college. Like, this is like 2 weeks ago. I was on a date with someone on campus at the student center, and one of the employees actually was wingmanning for me.
Did you know him?
This is funny. No, well, yes, because the employee who was working at it was like the campus. What do you call it? Like the market where they just sell like random snacks and stuff. Everyone really likes him at the college I go to because he's super nice and friendly. So I was with this person and he was like, "Wait, you're with this guy? He's the shit." And I was wanting to dap him up. You know what I mean? I was like, "Thank you. That means a lot." Anyway, I just thought I would.
Was this question try just a pure coincidence, or were you trying to manifest this?
I promise I was not colluding with Try to ask this question. Okay, so our final question is from The Shining Gamer. Have there been games where, as you play it, you have the thought that this would be, or that this should have been for a different character or franchise? Example, Donkey Kong Bonanza felt like it should have been a Hulk game, which that's an interesting point because, I mean, DK Bonanza is very like Hulk smash, and you're just like, smashing the mountain. I've never really thought about this before, to be honest. Is this something that you've thought about before this question was asked?
I was watching Ivan Afi's video on Star Fox Adventures. That should have been a Zelda game. It would have been a really bad Zelda game, but it probably could have been a Zelda game. It did take a lot of inspiration from Zelda, and it was kind of like Diet Zelda. Yes,
Diet Zelda.
You guys can. All of Ivan Avi's subscribers will be coming to this podcast, and then they will want me executed after saying that.
I really wish I had a good answer to this question. Fuck. I guess
nice.
I'll. Donovan, I'm struggling.
Keep this in. So, great weather today, guys. Tomorrow we got a clear chance of clouds. Just a really cloudy day. Nothing special.
I'm gonna say, okay, my answer is Federation Force Blast Ball on the 3DS. I think that the concept that they gave.
Random.
I think that the concept of the game had a lot of promise, and if they actually made it something that wasn't shitting on a franchise that fans wanted to come back, i.e. Metroid Prime, then it could have been really cool.
Maybe,
it's like
maybe
a Nintendo Rocket
Metroid
League,
Prime,
sort of.
Federation Force in general, if they just took out... Well, I mean, honestly, that game was kind of plagued by timing. That was the first Metroid game in like 7 years or something. So, but I have heard Federation Force is a decent enough game. If maybe if they made it like an original IP, it could have been something better received. But it makes sense why to attach it to Metroid Prime. Is there another game that I have thought it should have been for a different character or franchise?
Okay, so you were shitting on me.
Brain.exe stopped responding. I can't think of anything else other than, yes, poor old Star Fox Adventures.
I think that Ice Climber should have been a Wreck-It Ralph game. So that's it for the special hour.
I think
for this
Tetris 3D should have been a fighting game.
I think that Mario Kart should have been a GTA game.
Well, that's a legit request some people actually wanted.
Oh, wait, what? What?
People are expecting... People, I remember, and still to this day in comment sections, they're like, I wish a free roam was just like GTA.
What the fuck? What?
I mean, that would be a little bit interesting.
It would be fun. It would never happen, but it'd be fun. What's the people want you to be able to just recklessly crash into Mario's civilians? And...
The new Lego Batman game, people are thinking that should have just been a brand new Arkham game.
We could go on and on saying a bunch of bullshit, but yeah. Hopefully that was, I feel like that was the worst answer from both of us to that question. So hopefully that didn't disappoint you. So thank you guys so much for listening, for tuning in. This is episode 14 of the special hour. So as always, Donovan, not to annoy you because I know you hate whenever I ask you this, but where can the people find you on the internet?
Well, if you didn't really agree with my cutscenes opinions, my Star Fox Adventures opinions, who else did I make fun of today? Mr. Dean. You can find me on DonovanDud on YouTube, and you can primarily interact with me on Discord, the Nintendo Boys. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter. What about you? So,
my name is MrDean44. I am over on YouTube, so if you want to check me out, that would be lovely. I upload a lot of video game reviews, rankings, all that kind of stuff. I'm also on Discord, the Dean Kingdom, just your typical Discord server stuff, although... how many episodes in a row have I said this? We have been, the Discord server has been very inactive, so we really need to get it back up and running. I think I've been saying this every week since like episode 8, and literally nothing has been done. But maybe this will be the week that I try to revitalize it. So if you want to help me revitalize it, feel free to join. I'm also on Blue Sky and Twitter. I need to get off that app. So thank you everyone so much for listening. Once again, I've said that 4 times now. Hope to see you in the next episode 15. And also I forgot to say, but if you have any questions that you want us to answer, feel free to leave those down in either the comments below or preferably join the Special Hour Discord server where we have a text channel specifically for that. So, Donovan, is there anything that we need to say or bye?
See ya.